The Beaches podcast is going to give you everything you want to know about a beach before you go there. I hope you enjoy the show. Be sure to check out our website, www.sandee.com. Without further ado, let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into a listener suggestion. Cuba.
Sounds fun.
It is, but not just Cuba in general, you know. We're zeroing in on its beaches.
Okay, yeah.
Beaches. And get this classic cars, cigars, you know, capturing that whole Cuban vibe.
Right.
And we're lucky enough to have some really cool articles and notes from a listener all about experiencing the coastal culture there.
I do love how Cuba just blends those classic elements, you know, the cars, the cigars, with the natural beauty of its beaches. It's more than just a beach trip, you know?
You hit the nail on the head. It's like the beach is just the backdrop to something way bigger. And you mentioned something interesting in your notes about how Cuban culture kind of takes center stage right on the beaches.
It does, yeah.
What exactly did you find about that?
Well, there's this one spot, Playa Ancon. I think you had it in your notes, too.
Yeah.
And I found a source talking about how locals gather there every Sunday to dance casino. It's this really vibrant style of salsa. And it's not just a performance, you know, it's the community, their tradition, unfolding right there on the sand.
Wow, that's incredible. It reminds me of what you were saying earlier about salsa music. It's not just something you listen to in Cuba, it's something you live.
It really is. It pours out of homes, cafes, and of course onto the beaches. You'll hear it everywhere, but joining in, that's the real magic. Doesn't matter if you're a seasoned salsero or just trying to find the beat.
You've definitely got me wanting to learn casino now. But switching gears a bit, let's talk about those classic cars. You were particularly interested in driving them along the coast. What makes that so special?
It's more than just a pretty drive, although it definitely is that. But renting a classic car in Cuba is actually pretty common and affordable too, surprisingly. And that gives you the freedom to discover those hidden beaches and coves at your own pace, you know? Feel the wind in your hair, really experience the island's beauty firsthand.
It's amazing how those cars aren't just for show. They're part of everyday life there. I was reading an article you sent about how these cars really represent Cuban ingenuity, like keeping those old beauties running. It's an art form in itself.
Absolutely. It speaks volumes about their resourcefulness and their ability to adapt, to thrive. So, you know, when you're cruising down the Malecon in a vintage Chevy, it's not just a scenic drive. You're experiencing a piece of Cuban history, their resilience.
It's like taking a step back in time, but with that distinct Cuban rhythm. You know?
Yeah.
And speaking of uniquely Cuban, we can't forget about the cigars. You mentioned enjoying one on the beach, but stressed mindful indulgence. Can you elaborate on that?
Of course. Cuba's famous for its cigars, and savoring one as the sun sets over the ocean. It's a quintessential Cuban experience, but it's about really savoring the moment responsibly. Find a good local vendor, pick a cigar that you'll enjoy, and be mindful of the environment and those around you. It's about appreciating it, not just, you know, consuming it.
It's all about context, right? Like understanding the culture, the history behind the salsa, the cars, even the cigars.
Yeah.
It just enriches the whole experience.
It really does.
So to anyone listening who's ever dreamt of Cuba, remember, it's more than just a beach vacation. Imagine, you know, the feeling of casino on your feet, the wind rushing past you in a vintage car, and that aroma of a good cigar as the sun sets.
Oh, wow.
That's the magic waiting to be discovered in Cuba. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Thank you.
And be sure to join us next time for another deep dive into a fascinating corner of the world.
See you then.
Thanks for listening to the show, and be sure to tune in next week for your favorite episode about some of the best beaches and beach information in the world.